So once again, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. I know it's a Saturday afternoon, and this requires special motivation to come and join and attend something like this. Again, I want to repeat the logistics. We are all muted now. If you have to, if you need to talk or if you need to ask something, please do post it in the chat. We got Pradeep is helping us with the moderating the questions. And we have Rohit, our man on the focus. He's in the spotlight today. So Rohit is along with us today. And before we get any further, maybe one line on why are we doing this? What is the objective of this particular session? And would like to introduce IIT Palakad and TECHIN also into this mix. My name is Prasad. I'm one of those volunteers along with Junction P. The intent of these sessions are to share, learn, network, and help us to be with somebody who is from trenches, right? So that's why we call Rohit, who is from trenches, who experienced and being in the journey of an entrepreneur. So we are committed to helping first-time founders, early entrepreneurs in getting their hypothesis and as well as getting their ideas explored. And help them in getting into track, right? So that's a pretty much a broad agenda which we have. That's why we have been partnering with IIT Palakad and TECHIN because most of our interest is in tier 2, tier 3 cities, where in most of the tier 1 cities there are many know-hows and way in which we get support. But our objective is to how do we help folks from tier 2, tier 3 cities in getting and embracing the entrepreneurship, right? So with that note, I would like to introduce Anuradha Madam. I want Anuradha Madam, you should be able to unmute yourself. One second. Hey, Anuradha Madam, you want to just have a quick intro on TECHIN? Just say hi to everyone.
Hi, everybody. So thank you, Prasad, for having us here. IIT Palakad set up an incubation center, which is called Technology Innovation Foundation of IIT Palakad, TECHIN for short. It's a collaborative entity, so we have other institutes and industry partnering with us, participating in our programs, and the doors are open. So look out for our call for pitching events, hackathons, talks like Prasad is organizing. Enjoy the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anuradha Madam. Right, so with all these intros, and let's dive into. So we heard Rohit. So this whole section, the discussion with Rohit is more like a fireside chat. It's a very casual. There's no PPT, no death by PPT. So Rohit, if you are expecting a PPT session, this is not the one, right? It's more about conversation. This is more about understanding and talking. People, it's a day. Rohit, I always remember, it's a day of unplugged. So it's more of an unplugged version of Rohit, right? Even though he's dressed well, like a prof. Right. So without any further delay, so Rohit, the way we're going to interact, Rohit, here is we're going to have 4 sections. You start with your story first, and then we go into what we typically would like to call as the first, the first employee, the first investor, the first customer, then start, stop, continue. What are stuff which you're doing in that space, and then we'll have a rapid fire, right? And then we open up for Q&A. So that's how it's going to be structured. To start with, Rohit, probably you would like to listen to your personal story, where you come from, where did you study, and stuff like that, right? And your maybe a journey so far, right?
Great. So thanks so much, Prasad, and thanks, Anuradha Madam. And it's really a pleasure for me to come in and speak here today. And it's very nice for me because, coming from IIT and having, being part of an event which is organized by IIT Palakad. So this is really special to me. Thanks so much for having me here. So my background is like, I come from a very middle class family, spent a lot of my schooling in Lucknow, went to IIT Kanpur, 4 awesome years at IIT, came out, was thinking I'm on top of the world. The reality hit me, realized that everybody is equal. And that's when, we realize that, no matter what background you come from, the work life is like you have to start from scratch and make sure that, you achieve what you achieve in life. So that was my first learning. And from there, it's been an awesome ride. So I think the kind of exposure I've got working with in diversified roles has been incredible. So I started in a tech role, worked for a company called Geometric Software, did a lot of product development, did hard code, C++ coding back in those days. I remember my code used to be some 12 GB code with zero documentation. And those were the days when you have to go line by line debug and then figure out, what to do. But having looked, when I look back, that was an awesome experience, because that really set the foundation for what I'm doing today. And I am really thankful to Almighty that, the kind of journey which was defined for me has been very enriching, and I could use every bit of my experience to do what I'm doing today. uh, so back in those days, it was like, complete mock mentality that if you've done your BTech, the next thing is MBA. And why MBA? Nobody knew. And since all my flatmates, my colleagues were preparing for MBA, so I went for it. And uh, like the people I meet today, the youngsters I meet today, they are so very well informed. They know exactly what they want to do. It wasn't used to be the case in our days. So it was all a mob mentality that, everybody is going for MBA, you go for it, and so on and so forth. So I landed up with with an MBA from ISB Hyderabad, again 1 year, which was like a roller coaster ride for me. And again, it was like I wanted to look at the world a lot more closely than just getting tied into one job, one industry, one desk job. So I picked up investment banking, and that's where I could actually look at some 10-15 sectors, worked with seasoned entrepreneurs, founders of companies, to understand how businesses are managed, run. And that was a big stepping stone for me to kind of launch something of my own. uh, about 8-9 years of investment banking, and that's when the entrepreneurial journey after that started.
Mhm. Good. So, I know. So you studied in Lucknow, then did in IIT in Kanpur, then ISB. Yeah. So now, what you were in a day job of an investment banker, you said.
Mhm.
What made you to start something? What is the trigger for entrepreneurship?
So it was always like, I wanted to start something of my own. So yeah, I remember in my childhood days, if somebody used to ask me what you want to become, I would say I want to become a government, because I knew that government would involve so many people, it's so big, and so on and so forth. Well, those were innocent days, but that feeling kind of carried in me, as I grew and was going through my employment days and stuff. So I tried my hand with multiple times. Almost twice I kind of resigned from my job, and almost got into entrepreneurship before I actually did. So once my co-founder quit, and second time my parents blackmailed me, saying that middle class families, they're not cut out for businesses, so don't jump into it. So this time I made sure I overcome both these challenges. So I got my co-founder to resign before me, and second, I didn't tell my parents that I'm starting on my own till 6 months of my entrepreneurship.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So just to those who are guys who have joined a little late, we are talking to Rohit. Rohit is in the spotlight today, and Rohit is founder and CEO of Engagely. You could see in his background. So you're all muted as you when you're joining in. If you got any questions, anything which you need to ask Rohit, please do put it in the chat. We have Pradeep who is moderating the chat as we speak. Right. Yep, Rohit. So the trigger is you had always that fire of doing something by your own, right? And then we when we look at your first two ventures, which you said didn't really go well. So what are the key learnings from those?
So a lot of things have to come together for you to kind of get started and make sure you are able to make big. And the two ventures that I wanted to start, somehow they didn't take off at all. And this was the first one which really took off. So I did not start, did all the homework and got the business plans ready, but never could get into it. But this was the one which took reality. And it's been about 9 years now that we've been working on different ideas and working on different ventures. So after I got into entrepreneurial shoes, it's been almost my second venture. So first one was a big data analytics company. So I started in 2013, and back in those days, uh, the stars in the market were companies like Mu Sigma, Fractal. They had made big, and they had proven that analytics is one thing where one could scale and really make it like a global idea, and so on and so forth. And the thought process at that point of time was that SME segment in India needed data analytics, and they were underserved. We saw a huge opportunity there, and that was the key trigger for getting into this business. We saw that this is a completely virgin space, and we could really get in and make big.
All right. So what is Engagely? What is all about? What it does? What is this? What problem you're trying to solve?
So Prasad, we've made our living through conversations. So the idea here is that when you look at businesses, right, so they struggle big time in engaging their customers. You look at banks, you look at insurance companies, you look at retail, and so on and so forth, right? So everybody is looking to engage with their customers. And today, if you look at almost 70% of the channels on which brands engage with customers are conversational in nature. So you look at chat, you look at WhatsApp, you look at your phone calls, your emails, all are conversational in nature. And as businesses are growing, they need to scale. They need some AI, some machine to automate those conversations. And this is what we've created as part of Engagely, where we could actually get our AI engines in, understand what is the business context, and drive these conversations for our clients. And then it's been we are right now working with almost like 125 plus clients across different geographies and across different sectors doing this job. uh, and we've explored multiple concepts around conversations. So from reactive conversations to proactive conversations, how can we use this as a mechanism to make sure we are able to engage customers better? And that's why the name Engagely.
Right. So I'm sure when you started thinking about the conversation led AI and support, and there are certain things which you've done for first time, right? So we're getting into a section called the first time section, right? So who was your first employee?
Oh, this is an interesting journey. So my first employee was a person who used to report into me in my previous job. And he came to me that he wanted a salary hike and a promotion and so on and so forth. But I saw that he had potential to kind of do much better things than what he was doing there. And I just bounced off this idea to him, and he said, no, I'm all in. So I was into investment banking, so everybody who worked around me had zero tech experience. So he said, look, I'm okay getting into this. I really liking the idea, but I have zero tech experience. I don't know whether I'll be able to contribute to you. I said, don't worry, you will not have to do tech. And he resigned, joined our venture, and when he came in, we got a client opportunity, and it was hardcore tech opportunity where we had to do something. But this guy was awesome. So being a non-techie, he could really roll up his sleeves and get into the tech stuff, pick up tech, and deliver to the client requirements. So he was our backbone for a long time, and he's still with us, doing awesome work and leading some part of the business that we are running today.
So now from the first perspective, if you look back, how was your first 30, 60, 90 days kind of look like when you started this? You're quite serious now. So what was your first 60 days or first 90 days look like?
First, 60 days were really about planning and putting different building blocks in place. Right from getting the team to, sorting out the office to, getting internet in office, very, very basic stuff. And also looking at which clients to go after, how do you acquire clients, and so on and so forth. a lot of perceptions we had with which we started, they were coming to, to getting broken in the initial 60 days. And the excitement was there. Didn't matter to us whether something was going wrong or not. We knew that, we would work it out. We were young, and we knew we had the firepower to go on and create something. So 60 days were really awesome. And as time passed by, the initial 1.5 years, we realized that, oh man, we've got our product market fit wrong. We came to know that, SME sector is not the right space to exist. They're not willing to pay. You can't scale up your business. We were bleeding. We were almost running out of cash and didn't know what to do. So 60-90 days were good, but after that period was a big challenge, and the reality really hit us, that we had gone wrong in a lot of our assumptions. But then, the desire to really make it work out, we just persisted, and we tried to correct our course, and made a lot of adjustments to our strategy to make this work out.
So did you, when did you get your first customer? Did you get your first customer first, or you tried to make your solution first? Which one happened first?
No, since we started with like a big data analytics services, so we got our first customer. So how it all came together was that during my investment banking days, I was helping out an entrepreneur set up his business. So almost, kind of did everything in that business, right from incorporating company to, getting almost like 30-40 employees on board to getting first contract. And I was supposed to join that company as a CFO, but then I realized I'm not a CFO material. So I walked up to the entrepreneur and said, see, I don't feel excited becoming a CFO here. What I really want to do is start something of my own. So he said, okay, what do you need from me? I said, your company has to be my anchor customer. So he said, that's fine. So that's how we got our anchor customer even before we got started. And then that company is still our customer, going strong, and we still continue to work with that company. So that's how we got our first client.
Absolutely, in a B2B model, you cannot have a solution and then search your customer and problem, right? So you need to have a customer and the problem, then the solution. Fantastic. So I think, guys, very important. There are a few interesting perspectives which I think probably we need to take with a pinch of salt. Startup is not a quick success, right? So you have 13 years into this gig.
No, it's
Right?
almost about 8-9 years in this
9 years.
business now.
Yeah. Okay. So around 9 years, and all the first, you could see the first 60 days were exciting, and after that, the reality start biting, right? Fine. So who was your first investor, and how did you get that?
Okay, so once I figured out with this entrepreneur friend of mine that he's going to support us. There were a couple of others whom I knew very well, and walked up to them, and they said, yes, we are happy to explore, get something to us, and we'll be happy to do a POC and pilot with you. So that's when I knew that we are in the business, and we created a plan. Went to a couple of professional friends, and one of them connected us to somebody who became our first investor. And the thought was that so this gentleman was based out of UK, and the thought was that he could do a lot of business development for us in UK, get clients, and we could service from India.
All right. Okay. So did your investor was your customer, or investor was general investor?
The investor was an investor, so like a strategic investor who could really add value to the business as well.
Right. Good. Right. So I think that's the first the first section is over. We call that the first employee, the first investor, the first customer, and now moving into start, stop, continue. All right. So now, if you have to really look and reflect, anything which you stopped doing, what you were doing all these while?
So when you look at when I look at my journey, so a lot of times I take decisions basis how I see things would evolve in future, right? So I take a lot of bet on how things would evolve maybe 3 months, 6 months down the line, and I get a couple of them right, but most of them wrong. So we tend to make more mistakes than taking the right calls in businesses. So I think I need to really literally look at how I actually stop taking these calls, where I get logged into some of the things which tend to be counterproductive for the business, and that's an instinct that I need to really take control of as we move forward.
So you need to really take decisions from data, right? So you look at, you're in the business of data. So what you're suggesting is you look at your data and data should tell you what to take decision. That's what you're saying?
No, not really. As an entrepreneur, you have to take, calls basis some, 10% of the information that you have about that scenario. But, often the calls are so futuristic that you see a thing would work out maybe 6 months down or 9 months or 12 months down the line. But, you have to invest a lot in that thing now, right? So, out of 10 things, only 2 things work out. So rest of the 8, you end up spending a lot of resources while they don't materialize. So one has to be very, very judicious and careful in terms of what they're picking up and what they're working on. Time is the only thing that you cannot get back. Money still you can actually make up for it, but lost time is lost. So that is something that I really want to stop doing now.
Okay, makes sense. Absolutely. All right. So suppose if there are a few things I'm sure you're doing really well. What stuff which you want to continue doing it?
I think innovation is something that we've done really, really well. So if you look at the scale at which we are and the pace at which we've innovated, both are disproportionate. So we are giving a run for money to some of the largest brands globally. So in some of the cases, we've gone ahead and replaced world-class solutions, and clients have gone with our product and really made a difference to their operations and business. So innovation is something that I would continue working on and kind of make sure that we are at the cutting edge of things, and make sure that we are one of the early in whatever we are doing. There's no fun being one of the players in the market versus a leader in the market, or the first in the market.
Makes sense. Absolutely. Right. So again, to flow the conversation on start, stop, continue, what are things which you think you need to start doing now at this stage of your journey?
So there's a long list of that, but most importantly, what I want to do is to create innovation labs for doing super cutting edge work. So if you look at any startup journey, right, and that too with limited resources, not everybody has privilege of having resources at disposal as would somebody at Google or Microsoft would have, right? So what I really want to do, and as we raise more funding in our journey, we would want to have innovation labs where we have longer term for our innovation. So currently what happens is we look for something which can have immediate impact on our business, which could be 3 months, 6 months, but we don't have bandwidth and resources to look at innovation which could be long term, maybe 9 months, 1 year, or even 2 years. So that is something I'm very, very excited about, and I'm really waiting for some round of funding to come in to make sure that we've got innovation lab which is doing cutting edge work to have something which can disrupt the world.
Great. So what is the size of the organization Engagely now?
So Engagely is roughly about 125 plus people, primarily based out of India, and few of our colleagues are there across the globe.
Okay, so from a customer perspective, what is your number of customers that you have, and an size overview?
So we are about 150 plus customers, and almost adding about 10 to 15 customers a month. Primarily Indian customers, but we are expanding aggressively in Southeast Asia plus North America market, acquiring almost like 5 to 10 customers in Southeast Asia and US market as well.
Yeah. Great. So before we going into our next section, so I would like to get your perspective on somebody who want to start something, or somebody want to get into this entrepreneurship, right? Now, what is your 3 pieces of advice? The 3 things, right? The 3 things which we're getting into that section called 3 things now. So before we get into what are 3 things or 3 pieces of advice which you give for someone who want to explore entrepreneurship?
Right. So the most important piece is pick the right problem to solve, right? And when I say right problem, it needs to have some very basic elements to it. So for example, it has to be a very strong problem for the customer set you are trying to solve that problem for us, right? Second is that it should be a problem of plenty in the market, not a very small section of the market. That's when you'll be able to create a scalable business. And third, look at solutions where the others cannot replicate, or you have a significant differentiation factor to yourself, even if others were to come in. So that right problem is extremely important. Second is that uh, look for right team. So you need to have a good co-founder, you need to have good founding team with you to start this. It's not a journey where you can actually go alone, and don't even think about doing that. And third is be open to doing course correction. So often you find that whatever you started with, all the assumptions you took, half of them are not right, or they're not working. So be quick to realize that, and be quick to change your method, your approach, or your assumptions, to kind of navigate smoothly through this journey. The more you stick around and then hold on to some of your wrong perceptions and notions, the longer it'll take for you to kind of get to that tipping point.
I think it's just a strong sounding points. Problem worth solving, having right team, and continuous reflection.
Yeah,
absolutely. So three things. So I think again, continuing with the three things. So now, if you think, what are the three ingredients, right, which will make an investor to invest in you? Suppose if you're going to pitch to an investor, right, or you're going to talk to someone, it could be in the pre-seed or seed raise time. What are three things which you need to you should have as an ingredient to go and convince your first investor?
right. So I think the first two I just mentioned. So your problem statement has to be a strong problem statement, where you've got a large TAM, which is total addressable market. And your solution should be such that you've got a significant differentiation, or you've got a unique way of solving that problem. And third is the team you should look at. So team is the most important thing. A bad idea with good team can get you funding, and you can scale really well. A good idea with a very bad team can really go down any day.
Right. So I'm sure there's a big challenge of you have built a team of size of 125. That's really reasonable. You're no more a startup, right? You're really scaling up, fastly scaling up. So to retain your employees, what are three things you need, which you think somebody who's getting into this, which to retain your employees, what are three things which you will do, or which is
Right. So one is understanding employees well. So what we realized is that every employee has their own set of capabilities, own set of weaknesses, and they have their own perception about things and aspirations. Right. So you should be able to understand your team members well, so that you accordingly cut out a role for them. Right. So in the early stages of your evolution, you literally know everybody so well that you can do this job. And what makes people stick around is that they see a future with you. Second is that it is not just about money, and believe you me, a lot of people who stuck around, it was not about money. It was something which was exciting them. They were passionate about doing that. And most importantly, the culture of the organization should be such that uh, people love hanging around in the organization. Often just take them out for some sports activities and so on and so forth. And I'll give you an example. When I used to work with Geometric, right? So we were about 15 of us who passed out from ITK and were working at Geometric. I never looked out for a job, honestly, because I loved the culture so much. We had flexible working hours. We had to clock somewhere about 40-45 hours a week. We had a tennis court, a gym, and a swimming pool in the office. You could go anytime to the gym, swimming pool, or play tennis in the office, or even play football, come back and deliver your work. That's what mattered to the company. But because of that culture, I was so apprehensive whether I'll get that culture elsewhere or not. I never looked out. But for my MBA, I would not have moved out from that company. It was really that culture which kind of kept me back. And this is what we are trying to do here at Engagely as well. So in fact, some of the things that we do at Engagely is that the leadership team has targets of taking the entire team, reporting into them for parties, and they have to post pictures on the general group and so on and so forth. So trying to set up a culture where it's about work hard and party harder. So culture is something that we are trying to differentiate our organization when it comes to getting people on board and retaining them.
Good. Right. So before we move into our last section, that's a rapid fire. So those who have joined a little late, so you may be surprised why you are all muted. You can still type your questions on your chat. Be ready with your questions. We're getting into, after this section, we're getting into Q&A. So please ready with your questions and type your questions. Pradeep will be happy to moderate those questions, and we can ask Rohit. Right. So Rohit, are you ready for the rapid fire? So
Yeah, all set.
you can only, your top mind recall, right? You cannot think more than 5 seconds, right?
Okay.
Who's your role model?
My role model is Satya Nadella, and the reason for that is, he kind of transformed Microsoft completely. Before him, the thought process at Microsoft was very different. The world was changing around Microsoft. Microsoft was not able to keep up with the pace, but the thought process he came with of, not just sticking with Microsoft technologies, but opening up to open source stack. And that was something which I was, I respect him a lot for, and he's my role model for some of those decisions. You will never find him coming in the media and making some bold statements. He would be the silent person who would be making all the difference. So that really makes him my role model.
Great. That's fantastic. So you should have a role model at least. Very important. If not startup, then what?
I would have continued with my job, and I was loving my job before I left it, and I would have continued and made a career out of it.
Okay. So a very important thing is, did you leave your job and then started thinking about startup, or you had an idea, then you left the job?
No, I had an idea. I had put all the building blocks in place, and then left my job.
Very important, guys. Please take note of that. And don't just jump and think, okay, let me think some idea. Right. Right. Fine. What is your worst moment in startup?
So when COVID hit us, right? So, and that was a very, very difficult phase of our life. And, we had to take certain calls, which we would have never liked to take those calls. And we had no clue how the world would be, right? So whether COVID was going to last for a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, nobody knew, right? So everybody was in speculative mode, and you had no clue how to take decisions. That was most difficult part of our journey in last 8-9 years.
Okay. So, did you do something different this is quite, this happens, this uncertainty, right? Did you do anything differently or?
No. So, one thing that we did was we stuck to the basics. So what I did was, there were a lot of, webinars which are going on by some VC funds, what should startups do in this environment. And there were, events organized by Gartner where the analysts were talking about, how you should tide through this. So there were, some very, strong points which are coming out of those events. And we just stuck to those basics. Hold on to your strengths. Wherever your strengths are, just double down on those. Don't venture out and try out new things for that small time, and make sure that you are just able to tide through that phase. Once you are able to tide through, then there is whole life to kind of make it big. So but what happened was, after that initial period of uncertainty, we switched gears, and we realized that that's an amazing opportunity to grow, because everybody was trying to go digital. And they were investing a lot because they could not have their sales guys, they could not have their shop fronts open. and that we saw as an opportunity. And the moment that we realized that, yes, this is something that we should be doubling down on, we went aggressive.
Fantastic. That's great. And in Engagely journey, what is your best moment so far? I'm sure there may be many. What is your best moment so far?
So this is my acquisition of a client called PayPal, and PayPal for a startup. So this was during our second year of evolution, uh, and we won a client like PayPal, which was the largest in the world, uh, and a name which everybody would just stand up to. How did you get that client? So that kind of a thing, and that was that was my best moment in my entire journey. And then it's an interesting story. So I think I should take time to just walk through
Please.
this story. So I was in Singapore attending an event, and one of the speakers in the event was from PayPal. And I just walked up to him saying that, look, I started this venture and we are doing XYZ things. So he said, no, there are too many companies out there. Why should I work with a small startup in India, and so on and so forth. I said, that's fine. You're right in what you're saying, but throw a problem at me which nobody else is able to solve. So for me, there was no risk, right? There was nothing to lose. So he said, okay, if you want to try, we would love to try out. So he gave us a couple of problems, and 2 out of 3 we could crack, and that got us into PayPal.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, sharing
Mhm.
that. It's nice,
Mhm.
doing the most difficult problem for your customer
Mhm.
will, is the first thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Than selling. That's a great way of selling, is
Yeah.
solving the most difficult problem to a customer, or making somebody a real winner, is the way to do
Absolutely.
business. Yeah. Understanding the winning is important.
Right.
Fine. Good. So let's move on with your rapid fire. Uh, so you got three options. You have to choose one. Okay.
Mhm.
Your
Mhm.
wife, you got a son, right?
I've got a daughter.
You got a daughter. Your wife, your daughter, engagely. Which one you choose?
My daughter.
Thanks for that. I'm sure she's around. Right. Uh, the one startup you envy.
Not really one startup, but I envy a lot of startups which are originated in the valley, and they are able to make it big. The kind of support system they have in valley, the kind of funding they get in valley, is completely different. So in India, if you go for a Series A round, right? So or maybe if you go for a seed round, you might end up getting $500,000 or maybe $100,000, $200,000 as your seed round. You look at startups in the valley, right? So they get $5 million as seed round money. And when you have that kind of access to capital, right, your journey is very different, and the kind of growth that you can actually deliver is completely different. So I envy those startups who really get to start in the valley.
Okay. So I'm sure companies like TECHIN and academic institutes, they're all trying to come up building an ecosystem in India, right? So you
Mhm.
said access to capital is one key aspect. What are the other two things which is required for an entrepreneur from India?
I think a good mentorship is very, very important. Now, if you look, what I really believe as an entrepreneur, if you're trying to do, uh, and if you're trying to solve problems for end consumers, so like if you're creating a B2C business, India is a great market, right? You've got a massive population, which is your target population, and you can solve a lot of problems. But it's not easy to set up a large scalable business in India. The business environment is very complex. So if you are fresh out of college or you've got few years of experience in job, it might be a good idea to look for good mentors. And you should be very careful of getting good mentors, because you would find a lot of people coming and walking up to you saying that we'll mentor you, we'll take some stake, and so on and so forth. But just watch out for those folks. Not everybody would give you the right mentorship. So that is one. Second, if you're trying to build a B2B startup, right, uh, think of B2B startups from a global point of view, right? So don't look at B2B startups from just India point of view. If you're a B2B startup, your playground should be the entire world, not just India. And Indian B2B startups are making mark all across. So Freshworks is the most recent name that you would hear in terms of kind of conquering the world in a sense. So So I think now it's all these guys have already broken the myth that you cannot make it global coming out of India. So just look at a global playground for B2B startups.
That's really interesting. Right. So lottery versus startup, which one you choose?
Startup. I don't like uncertainty.
Right. So I think I did enough of asking and talking to you. So probably I'm unmuting everyone. So we should have an opportunity for people to ask. Don't shy away, guys. Here's an opportunity to talk to someone who lived and who brought up and learned lessons. And here's an opportunity. So let me know if you, where is that? Unmute. Tish, mute everyone. Yep. Unmute.
Prasad, you are on mute now.
I got muted myself.
Yeah.
I ask. Oh yeah, I got it. You guys can unmute now. Can you just guys try if you want to?
Yeah, looks fine, Prasad. Yeah.
Great. Any questions? Please go for it.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Hi. Good afternoon, Tanmay.
Sir, can I ask?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sir, I'm presently a first year undergraduate at IIIT Allahabad from BTech. I want to further involve in entrepreneurship. What can I do from now to go to that extent in future?
Okay. So firstly, hats off to you. You are thinking about this right in your first year. In fact, during our times, we had absolutely no clue what a startup is and should you be doing your own startup or not when we were in first year. At our time, we used to struggle with math 101 or 102. And Prasad, I guess it must be the same thing for you at IIT Bombay.
No, I didn't study in IIT Bombay.
Okay.
I was in I did in Bangalore.
Okay. Right. Sorry, I messed up. So from your startup point of view, what I would say is that you keep looking out for ideas, right? So if you've got right idea, then you will have a direction to work on, and that idea need not be something which could be very complex. It could be very, very simple idea that you could pick up and work on, and that is something that should be the first thing you should be doing. Keep talking to people. Talk to as many people as you can who've been through this ride. You will hear from them, learn a lot from them, and so on and so forth. So these are two things that I would suggest that you should be doing. I think it's a long journey for you. You still have 3 years to go, and by that time you would have actually gained a lot of experience talking to other folks who've done this thing before.
Yeah. And probably, I may add one more thing, Rohit, if you don't mind. So there's a lot of opportunity, like a lot of incubators, and many academic institutes today has got incubators. And probably I think you should walk in and present. Now, you're doing the right thing, attending these kind of sessions, right? That is also an important thing. Keep attending these kind of sessions, talk to people, and reach out to your incubators. That you will find a lot of startups working there, right? And you can either work with them, volunteer for them, work with them will give us a great insight. Now that's what I've seen many youngsters can do, which is a great opportunity. I'm sure Anuradha madam will be happy to have you as a volunteer, right? Whenever there is some startup events happening, right? So that's where you rub shoulders with people who are trying to do something. Yeah, Jayant, you can unmute now. You can unmute yourself and you can ask questions, please. Yeah. Do you want to ask anything, Jayant? So I saw you have, what is that? He's asking, are you from a computer science branch? What was your?
No, I'm mechanical.
There you go. See,
yeah.
He's doing one of the cutting edge technology company for mechanical engineering. So it doesn't matter. how do you think about advertising your startup, right? What is marketing and how do you do marketing and advertisements?
Right. So, when you talk about advertising, a lot of thing needs to go into it. So, right from deciding, who your target customers are, right? You cannot do carpet bombing. You have to be razor sharp in your marketing approach. So you decide who your target customers are, how you're going to reach out to them, how the journey of those customers are going to be once they kind of see your advertisement or your marketing campaign, and how are you able to get your message across to them? What should be your message to them in terms of how do you articulate and so on and so forth. So there are multiple things. So what we've done is that we worked primarily on social media to get our message across to our target market. So we work with a lot of B2B companies and large banks, insurance companies, and we find that digital is the right way to kind of expand and do a lot of marketing, because it's an inorganic way of reaching out people. So when you go to an event, you reach out to only those set of people who are visiting those events, right? Or if you do anything else, your reach is very limited. But with digital and social media, your reach is inorganic. It's exponential.
Guys, I'm sorry, some of you were not able to unmute. Can you guys can you try now? Because
Yes, sir, we can unmute now.
Fantastic. Is there any other questions on my?
Yes, sir. Sir, I wanted to know that we really need to do MBA for involving in a startup, or have management knowledge, or with a technology degree, we can still develop a good startup.
Okay. So MBA is not at all needed, right? So you really need to understand things, and with the kind of sharp background you're coming from, I'm sure you will have all it is needed to kind of pick up things without an MBA as well. So MBA really gives you those basics, but once you get out in the market and start working, the kind of learnings you have, they are the right pillars for you to kind of build something on top of those. Not really MBA.
Thank you, sir.
I could see a hand raised from Zoom user.
Hi, Prasad, this is Pramod.
Oh, hey, Pramod. Go ahead.
Hey, Rohit, good to have you here. Just one question. If you want to look back and see one particular thing that you would have done differently when you've done the startup, what would that be?
Right. So, hi, Pramod. Nice to get connected here. So one thing that I would like to change in my journey is overseas expansion a lot earlier in our evolution rather than later. We delayed it a bit too much. And that's what I believe if I were to do it again, I would do. And that is one thing that I would want to change for sure.
Oh, okay. Got it. And is there anything specific when it comes to investors that you would advise new startups? Something to be aware of, something to be careful about?
So I think just go by the basics with investors. Essentially, they are looking for avenues to invest. And if you're pitching to them, they want validation that you are the right company, your right startup to invest, which can scale up or not, right? So there is enough content out there on internet to understand what's the right way to pitch, what you need to do, and so on and so forth. My suggestion is just stick to the basics. So what excites investors is a large TAM. TAM is total addressable market. You are solving, which means that you are solving a big problem. What is your differentiation? How are you doing things differently? And what kind of team you've put and how you're going to scale up, right? So only scale ups can ensure that their valuation or the kind of returns they are looking for, they get out of this investment. So just stick to the basics. So if you've ever played cricket and got coaching for it, they would always tell you that you have to make sure your technique is good, and you stick to the basics all the time when you play cricket, right? It's the same thing. Your technique here is the problem and the solution, and your basics are how you should be taking decisions in a startup, right? So that is something that I would advise every startup founder to follow.
I could see a few hands. Shashwat, you want to go next?
Yes, sir. I want to go next. Hi, I'm first year student of BTech. I want to be entrepreneur. I want to know how I can get investment from other people's.
So the most important thing is the idea, right? So your idea should be so good that people get excited that yes, this is a problem of plenty in the world, and if you solve that problem, you can create a sizable opportunity or sizable organization out of it. That's all you need to do. So one is the idea, the solution. The second is your evaluation as a founder or a founding team, whether can you scale up or not, can you deliver to the promise or not. So those are the things investors are looking for.
I know, if I may add, so Shashwat, it's very important. You should have a problem worth solving, and people are ready to pay for the solution, right? And because there are alternates, many alternate exist. People are happy with alternates. They don't pay for your solutions. You have a great problem to solve, but there are alternates today. Then people look at alternates, right? There is no trigger in paying money to you to solve their problem, right? So
I would
look
say
at
that
both.
your idea should be monetizable, right?
Monetize.
So a lot of ideas these days are that you acquire the client for giving something free, but just having something free for client doesn't mean that you can't have revenues, right? So you still can have revenues. So what are these payment companies doing? So they charge, they help you transfer whatever $1,000 from person A to person B. Where are they making money in between? But they've got your data which they're monetizing, right? So monetization is very, very important.
Yep, agree. Yeah, I
Hey,
think
Rohit, just to add on, like, I know you've been the passion to start your own, right? Was there any moment which you felt need to go back? Or if there was anything close, what was it holding from the reality?
No, I have never thought of going back, and in fact, my thought has always been that I've got new idea. Should I build it as part of this product, or should I create a new one? So it's been a different feeling for me. So I've never thought about going back, and I can never get into an employment scenario now. It has always been that how do we kind of create new things and scale up companies.
Yeah, appreciate. I was about to say that when you said lessons learned from failures, right? That's what, it's not one failure. I'm sure we are short of time in terms of sharing the whole journey, but thanks for your time.
good. Chetin, do you have any further question? I saw your hand still raising.
Yes, sir. I have further question. Sir, when you start your startup, you are alone or you have a team already?
No, I had a team already. So I had a co-founder. So this friend of mine was my MBA batchmate. So both of us teamed together and then started this organization. So you should always look for co-founders and founding team. I just don't think of doing a startup all on your own. That will never work. And raising money will be all the more difficult.
After starting your startup, how you try to make your staffs? Some persons we need are skilled persons, some unskilled, or any all of the round persons we need in the startup. How you think about making your staff very effective?
So that's where your experience would come into picture. So I had plenty of experience before I started my own venture, right? So I had worked in different organizations. I had seen multiple startups, so I knew what kind of functions need to be set up, what kind of people had to be onboarded, and so on and so forth. But let's say if you are just starting up right out of your college, it might be a good idea to get some mentors, right? So who could actually tell you what's the right thing to do, or what are some of the options in front of them. And ultimately it's going to be your decision as a founder, but you need some torchbearer for you to tell you that this is the way you can actually walk and get to the next level.
Right. So we have a hand raising from Ram Prashant. Ram, do you want to go?
Yes, sir. Sir, what is the reason for your first analytical startup to not to see the light? What
No,
do
no,
you
no.
think that?
So my first big data analytics company is still existing. So that's called Exponential Data Labs, and Engagely is a product which is now offshoot of that particular big data analytics services. So on that company, we've got about 200 people doing pretty well, growing very well. So my co-founder looks at that particular venture. I look at this particular venture. So both the businesses are running very well right now.
And Radha, madam, go
Hey,
for it.
yeah, one small question. So when you were starting Engagely or the previous company, I'm not sure which one, you said after the first 30 or 60 days, you found that you did not have a market fit. So
Right.
how, if you were to do that journey again, what would you do differently?
Right. So a couple of things. So one is the market fit in India. So we realize that SME sector is not willing to pay, a huge money for your services or your offerings, and hence creating a sizable organization out of that is not possible. So what we did was we changed our focus to large enterprises, and that's when we started targeting large banks, insurance companies, and so on and so forth. So that is one course correction that we did. We changed our target market, and from there we started getting some success in the business. The second thing is that I would like to do differently, like I mentioned earlier as well. Probably just working in India market. I would have actually gone ahead and set up business in the US as well in the very initial days, rather than doing that very later in the journey.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Good. One last question. You got time for one last question. Who's going for that? If there's no further question, thank you so much, Rohit. We really enjoyed, talking to you. I'm sure that many of us got a lot of interesting questions. I'm sure you know where to reach out to Rohit. So Rohit, I think Engagely is a well-established entity, so probably you can find. It's easy to find him.
I'll just type in my email ID.
Yeah, you can type in your email ID
Yeah.
if you have any further discussions, or I'm sure Rohit will be happy to provide you some views, points of view. So I think the purpose of these sessions are, one, of course, learn and discuss from people who have done this before, as well as network with people, right? So network with people is also an important thing, right? So thanks for your time, Rohit, today, and thanks everyone who have joined. I know it's a Saturday evening. It requires some motivation to come and listen to these. So according to me, those are the first step. Taking some time, investing time on to understand, learn, and getting different perspective is the first step of journey towards an entrepreneurship. And thank you, Anuradha madam, TECHIN, and of course, the entire Junction P crew. We got Pramod, Pradeep. I don't know who else is there here today. Thanks everyone, and have a fantastic weekend, and stay safe.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Prasad. Thanks for having me here. Thanks, Anuradha ma'am. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.